Hi, boys and girls. I am back this week with some more stories for you. And this week we are going to be looking at an author whose name is Kevin Henkes. And he has a lot of really cool stories and a lot of really cool characters. So you might be familiar with some of these stories, or maybe you've seen some of these before. He has a lot of stories. And one thing that we're going to look at in his stories this week are the characters. So, first thing, what are characters? Right, characters are just the people that are in our story. Could be, a student, like last week when we read A Fine, Fine School. We had our student, our principal, the little brother. Those were all characters in the story. Okay, so we have characters in all kinds of fiction stories or stories that are not real. So in Kevin's stories, he has a lot of really cool characters, and a lot of the times they're kind of silly or funny. What we're going to read today is a story called Sheila Rae the Brave. I'm going to go ahead and put the cover up right here for you. And what I want you to look at in this story today with our character is, how does the character show how they are feeling? So sometimes when we have our feelings, we might be feeling mad, and we show that we are mad because we kind of have an angry face. We might, give a face like this. Or if we are happy, we might be smiling, okay? Or if we're sad, we might be crying, okay? So there are different ways that we can use our faces, our hands, and kind of our bodies to show how we might be feeling. So that's one thing that I really want you to watch today when I read our story, Sheila Rae the Brave, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and show you the cover here. There we have our author and the title of our story, Sheila Rae the Brave. Go ahead and flip it to the back cover. And this just gives me a little preview of the story, little picture from the story. And of course, just a quick review, we have our spine of the story here, the spine of our book. So if I had this book sitting on a shelf, the spine allows me to kind of see what that story is. I don't have to pull every single book off the shelf. I can just look right here and see, okay, Sheila Rae the Brave, that's the story I'm looking for, and then I can pull it off of my shelf, like when you go to the library. So I'm going to go ahead and open up our story today. So the character that we are going to be looking at today is actually going to be Sheila Rae. And in this story, she is called the Brave. So we're going to find out why she is called that and kind of see how she shows her feelings in this story. Sheila Rae wasn't afraid of anything. She wasn't afraid of the dark. She wasn't afraid of thunder and lightning. And she wasn't afraid of the big black dog at the end of the block. So we can go ahead and look at the picture there with her and here on this page. We'll back up so you can see it there. And look at this page here with the dog. Does she look afraid in this picture? No, not really. What would you say she is being in this picture? What is she kind of doing with that big dog there? Playing tug of war with him, but how would you say she is kind of showing? She's kind of showing maybe she's a little angry with him. That's one way we saw that by her face. At dinner, Sheila Rae made believe that the cherries in her fruit cocktail were the eyes of dead bears, and she ate 5 of them. At school, Sheila Rae giggled when the principal walked by. And when her classmate Wendell stole her jump rope during recess, Sheila Rae tied him up until the bell rang. "I am very brave," Sheila Rae said, patting herself on the back. Sheila Rae stepped on every crack in the sidewalk without fear. When her sister Louise said there was a monster in the closet, Sheila Rae attacked it. And she rode her bicycle no-handed with her eyes closed. Yeah, Sheila Rae, her friends yelled, clapping their hands. So far in our story, would you say that Sheila Rae is brave? Go ahead and give me a thumbs up. Yes, she is brave. Or a thumbs down. I don't really think she's that brave. Let's continue reading. One day, Sheila Rae decided to walk home from school a new way. Louise was afraid to. You're too brave for me, Louise said. You're always such a scaredy cat, Sheila Rae called. I am not, whispered Louise. Sheila Rae started off skipping. I am brave, she sang. I am fearless. She stepped on every crack. She walked backwards with her eyes closed. She growled at stray dogs and bared her teeth at stray cats. And she pretended that the trees were evil creatures. She climbed up them and broke their fingers off. Snap, snap, snap. Go ahead and take a close look at this picture there. How would you say she is feeling when she sees the dog and the cat? Yeah, she's feeling, it kind of looks a little crazy. I would say she's kind of scaring me a little bit with that creepy smile she has going on. That's another way we might show how we are feeling. We might have a crazy look on our face or a crazy smile. Sheila Rae walked and walked. She turned corners. She crossed streets. It suddenly occurred to Sheila Rae that nothing looked familiar. And let's go ahead and take a close look at this picture now. Look at Sheila Rae in that picture. How would you say she is feeling now? She kind of has been walking all over the place and she doesn't know where she is. Yeah, I would agree with that. I would say she looks pretty scared. Let's see, if she's still going to be brave or maybe not so brave now. Sheila Rae heard frightening noises. They sounded worse than thunder. She thought horrible thoughts. They were worse than anything she had ever imagined. I am brave, Sheila Rae tried to convince herself. I am fearless. We can really see now, in these illustrations, she is definitely looking worried. We can see that. She has that frown on her face. Looks like she might even cry. She's kind of really worried. She has no idea where she's at. How would you feel if, you were lost from everything that you knew? You might feel pretty worried too. The sounds became more frightening. The thoughts became more horrible. Sheila Rae sat down on a rock and cried. Help, she sniffed. She thought her mother and father and Louise. She thought of her mother and her father and Louise. Mother, Father, Louise, she cried. And now we can really see the illustrator did a nice job in this picture showing us, now she's crying. She's kind of, whining out. She's so worried, but if we look carefully, we see someone up here in the tree. Let's find out what happens. Here I am, a voice said. Louise! Sheila Rae hugged her sister. We're lost, Sheila Rae said. No, we're not, said Louise. I know the way home. Follow me. Louise stepped on every crack. She walked backwards with her eyes closed. She growled at stray dogs and bared her teeth at stray cats. So who is the brave one now in this story? Yeah, I would say definitely Louise is now acting brave. Not so much Sheila Rae. She pretended that the trees were evil creatures. She jumped up and broke off their fingers. Snap, snap, snap. Sheila Rae walked quietly behind her. They walked and walked. They crossed streets. They turned corners. Soon their house could be seen between the trees. Sheila Rae grabbed Louise and dashed up the street. When they reached their own yard and the gate was closed behind them, Sheila Rae said, "Louise, you are brave. You are fearless." And now that they've made it back home, take a close look at the illustration. How would you say that both of our characters are feeling now? Yeah, we see that big smile on Sheila Rae's face. She is really happy to be back home where she's safe. "We both are," said Louise, and they walked backwards into the house with their eyes closed. So that was our story, Sheila Rae the Brave, today. So let's talk about it just real quick. What were some of the different feelings that the author and the illustrator talked about in this story? We found out at first that Sheila Rae was feeling brave. Then, she was kind of getting that crazy look in her eyes, kind of scaring off the dogs and the cats. She's getting a little crazy there. But then she kind of started to wander off. How was she starting to feel when she started to wander off? She had no clue where she was at. Good. She was feeling really worried, scared, maybe lonely, you might say. And we saw that because the illustration showed her kind of, whining out. She was crying. We saw tears in the illustration. So those are all things that we can see that show the character is feeling sad. And then at the end of the story, when they were back home safe, how were both of the girls, Sheila Rae and Louise, feeling? Yeah, they were both feeling very happy, and we saw that big smile on their face that showed us that they were feeling much better. Okay, so there are a lot of different ways that an author can show how a character is feeling, and we're going to continue looking at that through some other stories this week, okay? So I hope you liked today's story, Sheila Rae the Brave. These are some of my favorite stories. I really like this author, Kevin Henkes, a lot. So I hope that you enjoy our stories this week. All right, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.